Cathy went to Greece for her holiday last year. She went with her friends, Pat and Barbara. They spent 2 days in Athens and 10 days in the Aegean Islands. The weather was fine and they went swimming every day. They had a wonderful time. Marco went to Canada for his holiday last winter. He went with his girlfriend Francesca. They spent Christmas in Toronto. Marco has an uncle there, and a week in Calgary. It was very cold, and they went skiing every day. They had a great time. Patrick and Kate went to Scotland for their holiday last summer. They went with their friends Jill and Tony. They spent 4 days in Edinburgh, and then for 2 weeks they went walking in the Scottish Highlands. The weather was terrible because it rained every day. They had a terrible time. John went to France for his holiday last August. He went with his wife Rosie and their 3 children. They spent 2 weeks at the beach in Cannes and 1 week in the mountains. The weather was hot and sunny. They had a fun time. George and his sister Sally went to Australia for their holiday last October. They went to visit their grandparents who live there. They went by plane. It was their first time. They spent 4 wonderful weeks in Sydney. The weather was lovely, and they didn't want to come home. Phyllis went to Paris for a short holiday last week. She went with her credit card. She spent 2 hours in the Louvre Museum. There was an interesting Poussin exhibition, and 2 days shopping. The weather wasn't very good, but she had a wonderful time, and she spent 2,500 euros. Louise made a little trip last weekend. The travel agency had a special offer: 3 days, 2 nights in Paris for only £99. So she went to Paris. Unfortunately, the weather was terrible last Friday morning, and Louise's plane was delayed. She had to wait for 5 hours at the Heathrow airport. So she started reading Dante's Divine Comedy in an English translation. The flight to Paris was terrible. There was a lot of wind and a lot of rain and a lot of traffic near Paris, so the plane was very late. When Louise finally arrived at her hotel, it was after 8 p.m., and she was very tired. She went to bed, and she didn't even have any dinner. Poor Louise. On Saturday, the weather was worse. Rain, rain, rain. Louise wanted to go to the Louvre Museum, and she wanted to see the Eiffel Tower, and she wanted to do some shopping. But instead she stayed in her hotel room and read more Dante. 200 pages, more or less. There was more rain on Sunday and more Dante. But she only read 100 pages because her plane back to London was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Of course, the flight was late. 50 pages late. But on the plane to London, she met a very nice, young, good-looking Italian man named Dante. What a coincidence. So Louise had a nice weekend after all.